So what we're going to do now is we are going to open up Notepad++. We're going to open up a pre-made program. We're going to use the Hello World program from class. And we're going to verify that everything is absolutely perfect by opening up our command prompt, locating that file, and running the file to make sure that it works the way it should. We're going to compile it first, so it converts it from our Java code through the Java virtual machine into a Java program. And then we are actually going to run the program itself. So first thing we need to do is open up Notepad++. And then we are going to open up our text file. So as you can see, it has opened us up on the Notepad++ folder. That's not very useful for us. As I mentioned in the previous video, you can't actually save Java files here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the desktop where I've created my Java file, and you can see here it is, my first program. I'm going to double click on that, and it opens up my first program here. Now we know that we have our Java code. Very quickly, this is our class denoter here. This shows the name of our program, so what our program is going to be called, my first program. Again, note we have no spaces in between these words here. If you do that, that's going to cause an error, so we don't have that. We have a bracket here, and you can see the match down on line number 5, and this shows us the boundary of our program. So our program exists from line 1 to line 5, outside of line 5, so line 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's not part of our program. Inside our program we have our main method, which is these odd keywords at the beginning, public, static, void. I'll explain in more detail what they mean in another video, but it's safe to say that for every program you're going to write from now until the end of possibly your 4-year degree, you are going to need to have a method that starts public, static, void, main. Then we've got string, square brackets. Remember, brackets are very important, and the type of bracket you use means different things. And then ARGS, this is an abbreviation for arguments. And again, we open up another red bracket here, which goes from line number 2 to line number 4. This gives us the boundary of our main method. Inside our main method, we have a single command prompt. And this is going to say print to the screen, using the special Java code, so system.out.print, and note these are full stops, these are dots, these are not commas, they're not any other symbol. And then we open up our brackets, and in quotation marks we have the 2 words hello world, which is our traditional very first program you run in any programming language. And then because this is a command, it's a statement, we finish our line with a semicolon to say this is the end of our statement. And then we have our 2 closing brackets, one for our public static void main and one for our actual class definition, and this defines the entirety of our first program. We'll look more at what each of these commands mean at a later video, but for now I just want to make sure that everything's up and running, that we can run our first program. So what we need to do now is we need to close down our development environment, we need to close down Notepad++, and we need to open up our command prompt. Command prompt there, click on that, and we're left with this. So we have 2 different commands we're going to deal with here. Let's scroll up here a little bit. We have Java, and we have Java-C. Java-C, that stands for Java compile. And that's the first thing we need to do. So that's our first step. And once Java has compiled, it makes a class file, a .class file, and that is where our program can actually be run from. So we need to do Java compile. So the way we do this is we type in Java-C and then the name of our program, and we need to give the full name. So we can go and actually there's only one file there, so I'm going to press tab now to complete out the rest of that. And what that does is it says take that Java file and compile it. So it goes away and it comes back. If you get no messages here, that means that there are no errors. We'll have another video later in this series which will show what happens when an error occurs and how do we find those errors and fix them and then recompile to make sure that we have actually got everything working. It's important to note that if you try to compile your code and at a later stage you amend your code and that new amendment has an error in it, if you don't recompile, it'll run the last version of your code. You need to, every time you change your code, you need to recompile it. So if you want to test your program after you've made a change, it's a two-step process. You need to compile first, then run. So we know now that it's run. And then there's two ways we can check this. The first way is by going our directory structure. And you can see now we've got two files here. We've got one file, which is just called myfirstprogram.java. And then we have our actual Java program, which is called myfirstprogram.class. So the .class files are binary files. They're not plain text like our Java program. Let me show you what I mean with that. If I take my Java program here, I say open this up with normal Notepad, I can see my code. I can read it there. All that code makes sense. But if I take this, which is my class file, and I open that up with Notepad, I get gibberish. I can kind of make some of the words out there, but not all of them. I've got all these odd characters in there. And what's happening there is we're trying to, it's a binary file. It's not a human readable file. It has to go through some sort of machine language to be able to be deciphered back into what we need. The reason it's done that is machine code is much faster to run. The less it looks like the English language, the faster to run on your machine. The more it looks like the English language, the easier it is to use, but the trade-off is it's a slower running program. Java tries to overcome this by having a Java virtual machine which converts it back into a faster format once we've actually written our code. Okay, so I can see that my class program is in here. I've seen my codes in here. When I compiled it up earlier on, where I have that command there, yeah, so Java C here, no errors came back. It came back to sort of blank line, which means everything was good. So now I can run my program. So I can go Java, my first program. Now, if I try running this, I will get an error. And it says, could not find or load main class, myfirstprogram.class. And here's one of the first hurdles that you're going to come across with Java. When you want to run the program, you don't need the class extension. To compile it, you must have the .java extension, but to run the program, you just need the left-hand side of the file name, so everything up to the first full stop. And if we run this now, you'll see that we get hello world printed out on the screen, which is exactly what we wanted.